boy, we got the Wishbone, the Old Guys podcast. Everybody's got a smile on their face except for G-Rizen, who was caught fondling a sex doll. We'll get into that story momentarily. Uncle T, wonderful to see your smiling face. JT Hayes has announced that he has something to say. He wanted to make sure I got to him before G-Rizen bloviated on his sex doll thing. So, JT Hayes, hello. Hello, sweet JT. How are you?
It's good to see you, Holden. It's good to see you. It's great to see G-Rizen and, Uncle T, hello. So I said, first of all, I was fine with beginning with G-Rizen because he's got a story. We've got a great photo of him and a sex doll, which is on the scale of 1 to 10, about a 3 in terms of surprising. So, but he's going to get to that. So I got up early this morning because I had a lot of things to do. And I said, I was in Miami last week, Holden. I was not in New York. That was the week before. I wish you could keep it straight.
I couldn't.
I was in Miami. I'm not interested in hearing from you. I was in Miami. And I said, you know what? Let me listen because I was busy last week. I said, let me listen to what they talked about last week. And I turned it on. I was full of anticipation. I was in such a great mood. And then I heard that I was expendable because I wasn't here last year. Mm-hmm. G-Rizen missed most of it. It was almost, I gotta be honest, it was somewhat unlistenable until G-Rizen joined. And I say this because I was so excited and I was gonna have a great day. And right off the bat, 7:30 this morning, 7:30, Uncle T kicks it off with the worst mojo that I haven't seen mojo like this since before RPS, quite honestly, since maybe the beginnings of DFS. He starts it off with, hey, let's go ahead and record the pod early so JT can go and watch his Braves get their ass beat again. Ha ha, giggle, giggle, funny, funny. And look, I've seen this my whole adult life, right? I know where this is coming from. It's coming from a place of envy. The Cincinnati Reds aren't playing a baseball game tonight. The last time the Cincinnati Reds got into the playoffs, actually, it was 3 and out very quickly. Sweepy, thank you, bye-bye, go back the fuck home to Cincinnati at the hands of the Atlanta Braves. I have been the best to Uncle T. I've been a good partner, a good friend, and he's just kicking me in the teeth this morning. And so I'm listening to the podcast, and it's already started off bad, right? I'm expendable. And then I hear this from Uncle T. These 2 nuggets that I want him to talk about on this show, because I'm interested to hear what his thoughts are today, a few days after Sunday. I think the Detroit Lions will get their first win of the season on Sunday. Oh, Philly is so bad. The Eagles are so bad. I think Detroit is going to move the ball easily up and down the field. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to forgive Uncle T. I'm going to forgive Uncle T because he's having a bad enough week. If those were his stands on Sunday, I love Uncle T, but man, you kicked this off today. Terrible mojo, rooting against my Braves. Like Holden said before we came on, by the time this is out, one way or the other, the Braves are going to be champions or the city of Atlanta will have another devastating loss on its hands. Mm-hmm. But man, that was, you're right, Uncle T, that was fucking hurtful.
Yeah, am I allowed to come in, Holden, or are you doing?
No, I've left
properly
it.
Bring me in, or
I left it silent for you. I mean, them's was fighting words.
Well, that was definitely a lot to digest. So let me see if I can break a little bit of this down. So, JT, I'm not. From what I was told, he doesn't get into our Discord coordinators chat until around noon Eastern time. So for him to be in there at 7:30 a.m. was very shocking. So I thought maybe I could sneak in a little jab. I do have a World Series bet on Houston, so it wasn't like it was.
And I'm sorry, would suffice.
Hold on,
I'm sorry, JT, would suffice.
Hold on, it's my turn. It wasn't from a terrible place. It was just that I had a rooting interest as well. So it was really all in good fun. Looks like G-Rizen said we're already 14 minutes in, or 15. G-Rizen. No, but no, in all honesty, JT, it definitely wasn't from a bad place. So I do have a World Series bet on Houston. I don't know if you've got any action on it. I'm sure you do. So regardless, one of us is going to be happy tonight or even tomorrow, right? So that's that. But the other part is, so you listen to the podcast, right, that basically me and Holden held down the fort for our 2 guys here. G-Rizen come in with 8.5 minutes left in the show last week. JT, obviously, we talked good about you. Holden may have thrown a couple snide remarks in.
No.
So really, you owe it to him as far as getting on. So I thought you were teeing that whole thing up, your whole thing there, to say, you know what, I appreciate Holden and Uncle T holding down things for me for a week, but then you throw in a little jab at Uncle T, and it's like, it's very hurtful. But, you know, again, I will like to say last week I backtracked a little bit on Tom Brady, took my L. I mean, Tom Brady's been fantastic. Holden will tell you. And JT, you probably turned the show off before you could hear that part last week, but I backtracked a little bit on Tom Brady, took my L, and now I'm going to come on here and take my L about the Detroit Lions. Wow, was that bad? I mean, that was really, really bad. So yeah, it's been a rough start to the show for Uncle T, but I want to let G-Rizen finally come in because he's eaten about 8 pieces of Halloween candy since we came on. So, G, what do you got, buddy?
Well, I just want it to be known that 1 minute, 54 seconds, that's how long Uncle T went on that rant. And when I came on and we were talking about how I was going to lead the show, he was adamant. 30 seconds, G. Don't be going long. 30 seconds, G. Man, you went on 4 times as long as you even gave me to talk. What the heck is going on here? But anyway.
Holden, start the timer.
It's a good time. Anyway, so you guys were giving me shit, talking about my blow-up doll. Anyway, I did my show for Halloween. I dressed as Urban Meyer, wore the shirt with the Jaguar, and I walked around with the blow-up doll. So, yes, I was on my network show with that on my lap, which was fun. And then the best part was I went to the casino, and I walked to our pregame show for the local rock station, and I had to walk 4 blocks carrying a blow-up doll at 10 in the morning through downtown Detroit. Got a lot of comments, and then when they realized I was Urban Meyer, they all laughed.
Did anybody hit on you?
You know, a few people were like, what are you doing? Rough night last night, buddy? You know, I got all kinds of funny comments as I was walking down the street. But when they realized I was Urban, I got a few chuckles. And, of course, you know, the Michigan fans surely enjoyed it. It was easy to point out a Michigan fan because, you know, we all love to hate some Urban. And, yes, you guys are going to ask me. It was painful being a Michigan fan last week watching that Michigan State game. I understand that was the most watched college football game so far of the year of all the major networks. But yes, it's time for Harbaugh to go if you guys want to know if I'm an insider Michigan fan. But that is a very tough job to fill. There's a lot of politics involved. But, yeah, I'm ready to be done with him.
So, G-Rise, a couple questions here. Was this a doll that you had already had or one that you just punished after you bought it?
Well,
or one that's been punished before.
My girl and I went the night before and went to the sex toy store, and we purchased that young lady for $29.99. Mm-hmm. And then I blew her up by my mouth. No machine. I actually gave it the myself and got her all blown up.
Does it count when you have a 3-way with a real person and a sex doll?
Hey, I mean, it's your story. You tell it how you want.
Yep. You tell me your story. How did it go?
Well, you know, that we haven't got to that point yet. We want to get to know her a little bit and maybe have some food and dinner with her before we get to that. We just don't jump into things like that around here.
I'll send you some patches. So when you break it,
if you need any tips, G, Holden, he'll be available to answer any questions.
Yeah. Just call me, buddy.
You know, I totally would. You'd be my first lifeline on the one to be a millionaire.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Next thing to get into, I don't remember us saying he was expendable. Uncle T, is that something? I don't recall it either.
Said? He might have just read into something. I mean, JT, I'm sure he had a few beers in him for sure. Yeah. You know what I mean? He really didn't. He acted like he really didn't even want to listen. That's the most hurtful thing.
It was 8 o'clock this morning. It's 8 o'clock this morning. What do you mean I had a couple of beers in me?
He said I had 8 o'clock this morning.
Do you think I have an IV hooked up to me while I'm sleeping?
This is too good.
I mean, you were a little upset about the Braves getting beat after a 4-0 lead the other night. I wouldn't put it past you to have a couple cocktails.
I'm not upset about that.
No, in all honesty, let's get into the baseball just for a minute. So, in all honesty, do you think I think it ends tonight, to be honest. I'm rooting for Houston, but I don't feel good about this hack that's on the mound for the Astros tonight. I really don't. Fried has been pretty good the last part of the season. He struggled just a little bit the last couple of games, but I think I'm rooting for Houston, like I said, because I've got a bet on it, obviously. But I'm a little worried about this guy on the mound for Houston tonight. I think the Braves get to this guy.
I greatly would have preferred that they didn't have to go back to Houston. I think, before the series, I thought the Braves had probably the one advantage, which was a slight advantage in starting pitching with McCullers out. Then Morton breaks his leg, and, Enoa hurt himself in the last series. You mentioned Fried. Fried pitched great the second half of the season. For the most part, that was against really bad competition in the National League East and Central. He did pitch a couple of really good games against the Dodgers and Giants, and he hasn't looked good in the postseason after the Brewers series. So the Astros are at home. The Astros are experienced. They've been down before in the World Series. They've gone well for them and not gone well for them. And I think it's going to be a dogfight. The thing about Luis Garcia is, for most of the season, he pitched really, really well, and he's always pitched better at home. He hasn't looked as good in the postseason. Same situation as Fried. Probably looked a little worse than Fried, but they're at home, and it's not a good feeling to be going on the road, even though you have the advantage. So I hope they win. I think it's going to be. I don't think any of these games are going to be, a 10-4 walk away for the Braves. I would love to see that, but this Astros team is fighting. They have a definitive chip on their shoulder from what they've gone through the last couple of seasons, and it's going to be tough. I hope the Braves get there. I think they have the talent to do it, but the Astros are certainly very talented as well.
I will say this: I think if they do somehow win tonight to obviously even it up to win 2 in a row, I do think clearly a lot of pressure is going to be squarely on the Braves in Game 7 just because of the momentum factor. Maybe not, but no, I'm kind of liking the over a little bit tonight. I don't know if I'll just root on my series play or the over is 8.5.
Can we not decide to not talk about this because it's not going to matter tomorrow? I mean, what happened here? All I can say is
he talks about me rambling. He talks about me rambling. He's rambling on and on about.
Well, this is just so next week somebody can turn it on and say, "Well, Uncle T said over 8.5, and the game finished 1-0. What a goofball!"
All right, so we're 11.5 minutes in, and we have to edit the fucking thing. Okay, so let's just
blow up doll portion out.
At least take out the part about the ongoing courtship. I mean, that is perhaps the creepiest thing I've ever heard.
No, you've heard a lot. I've said plenty of creepy things that are.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. I forgot who else is on the show.
I would also like to talk about something here with the NFL teams. Now, Uncle T is in the Cincinnati area, so he has nothing to say. He just went through 20 years of shittiness. But my God, G-Rizen has back there the Lions are 14-point dogs on their bye week. We've got.
I kind of like bye week there. For maybe
we got
100.
JT Hayes living in Atlanta with that dog shit Atlanta team. For some reason, they thought they could win with Matt Ryan. And I'm sitting here in Denver. I mean, I thought it's a lot worse in Washington, D.C. when I cover that team. But this place is a disaster, too. I mean, now they're trading Von Miller. I don't know. The sex doll must be taking its clothes off. G-Rizen is looking to his left. I mean, we really are
naked girls running around in the basement.
Huh?
Bring her in. Get her in here. Let's go.
Yeah, bring her in. You told me she'd do this, with the shirt. So do it.
Hey.
Anyways, we are cursed, guys. JT Hayes, who I feel bad for G-Rizen, not really, but that is just a debacle. I think if we would have looked at the Bengals coming into the season, that Uncle T would have been the second worst position. And then JT Hayes and then me. But boy, G-Rizen, you do shows in Detroit, man. And I get it. I've done shows where all the team sucks, but I don't know how you talk about the Lions, with the exception is this is probably a worse team than they were when they didn't win a game.
Well, I did have a conversation. If the Lions played the undefeated 0-16 Lions, who would be favored?
0-16?
Yeah, because nobody could cover Calvin on this team. I mean, they got a Hall of Famer. I mean, nobody could cover Calvin. But, it's rough. And I tell them, hey, don't have to pay attention to the Lions. This is why we have opportunities to play DFS. We can play season long. We can invest our interests in other places. But yeah, it's very frustrating being a Lions fan. I didn't expect much. Well, I didn't expect them to be this bad, but to see the coach whining and pouting after pre-games and, after games and shit like that, that's the part that's just annoying. Like, come on, man. These guys are in the trenches fighting. Just flat out say, we don't have anything in the cupboard. Matt Patricia left me shit. I'm dealing with what I got. We're going to have a rough year, but we're going to fight every week. Just do things like that instead of sitting up there pouting. And, it's kind of turning into a circus act too.
So, GT Hayes, would you like to talk about what's going on in Atlanta with that dog crap team? I mean, ever since 28-3, it's just infected the whole community, And now Calvin Ridley stepped down. Matt Ryan's still there. They can't play defense. There's no real solution in Atlanta to where I see them being competitive anytime soon.
No. And, the first couple of weeks of the season, I was kind of, bitching about the fact that Cordero Patterson was the guy on this team who got the ball all the time. Well, Cordero Patterson is keeping this team afloat. I mean, he looks like the most talented guy out there. At least this week he did. Now you have the Ridley situation, which I'm just going to say, look, he's dealing with something and I don't know what it is. I'm going to assume it's very serious and I hope that he gets it taken care of. I don't think they were going anywhere this year, and whatever he's dealing with is probably more important than a football game. So, but it's an opportunity for, Arthur Smith talked about, well, Kyle Pitts is now going to see the extra coverage that Ridley saw as a rookie, and it's good for him, maybe not this season, but it's good for him next season, right? I don't know. I mean, they went out and they signed Mike Davis, which was a mistake. It was a mistake when they did it. And Patterson looks like a guy that they brought in that works out well, but they're not a competitive team. Matt Ryan is not, you're not building around Matt Ryan, right? And they had an opportunity in the draft to maybe get that quarterback or someone who could be the quarterback of the future, and they didn't do it. But look, and we're going to get into this in 45 minutes when we start talking about football, but the issue this week that we're going to find in DFS is all these injuries. I mean, the Falcons play the Saints. Jameis Winston just went down. So you've got maybe Taysom Hill, maybe Trevor Siemian. You've got the Jets now with a backup who played really, really well, but I don't think that's going to be the norm moving forward. You've got Kyle Murray in Arizona who's injured, the situation in Seattle. So injuries are a part of the game. Rebuilding is a part of the game. And the window, what this thing proves for the Falcons, the window is very short, which makes what the Rams did in going out and getting Von Miller. And I heard you talk about that, Holden, on your network. I saw a video where you were talking about the impact that Von Miller had in Denver, the impact he could have on the Rams. It makes what they did in getting Stafford last season over the offseason and then getting Von Miller. If you're a Rams fan, you got to be feeling really, really good. And I saw G-Rizen talk about how he's got the Rams to win the Super Bowl. They understand there, Sean McVay does, that the window is very, very small to get to the top.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And then poor G-Rizen, and thank you very much for the shout out. That would be the Denver CityCast on VSiN. And if you listen and subscribe, you'll get the good mojo there. But Uncle T, you've been, in the Bengals area for ages now. And I'm sure it's just amazing to actually have a team that has played well, although that loss to the Jets was kind of embarrassing. But what was it like are you a Bengals fan? And what was it like being down there for that long with this team being that horrible, just horrible?
Yeah, to be clear, Holden, 41 years I've been, in this area. That's how old I am, 41. So I've been around for a lot of losing seasons at 41 years old. But, last week it was definitely – if you looked at the glass half, first off, before I get into the Bengals take, I do really like the move that Denver made in getting rid of Von Miller. I might be out on an island here. I don't know. But I think they weren't going anywhere, clearly. For them to get a couple picks for him, I do think, and then to be able to ship him. Now, they weren't going to ship him in division, obviously, or anything like that. Not that that would have mattered this year. Denver's not going anywhere. But I do kind of like that for the future. And then, obviously, the Rams are just loading up. I know G-Rizen is just – biting at the bit to tell us for the 765th time that he's got a Rams Super Bowl bet out there. But
almost up to your birthday.
Yeah, but it's I was 41 this year. I look great for 41, first off. But yeah.
Only 350 more days until Uncle T's birthday, by the way.
Right.
Are you guys already planning what you're going to get me? I appreciate that. Thank you. But no, as far as the Bengals guys, so first off, I'm not a Bengals like diehard by any means. I obviously want them to do well. Similar to probably G-Rizen, we want our local teams to do well, but if they lose, I'm not going to lose any sleep on it or anything. But if you're looking at the glass half full, you say, obviously, they got a lot of young talent. They were off to a good start. They come off a big win against Baltimore on the road where they just totally dominated one of the top teams in the AFC. They have Cleveland coming up this week. So, in terms of what we like to call that sandwich game, right, was this past weekend. Now, that glass half full is maybe they, are so young to where they haven't learned how to win games like that, to where, again, you're coming off a big win. You got a big divisional game at home coming up this week. You just had a letdown. Now, I don't buy into that. I'm just saying, if you're the glass half full guy, maybe you can buy into that and sell it to your team. But for the coach here, I think this is mostly on the coach. You cannot allow a backup quarterback to throw for over 400 yards on you in a game like you just can't do it. So it definitely is disappointing. I mean, right when they get not only the local fan base here bought back into thinking that they're pretty good, right? Number 1 seed after 8 weeks. Well, the problem is, boys, there's 17 weeks in the season. So, I think at worst it kind of, makes them refocus a little bit. Maybe they come out. Now, if they win this week at home against Cleveland, I think maybe that Detroit or that Jets game last week maybe is a little bit forgotten. If they somehow all right.
She stole my candy. Do you see that, you guys?
No, nobody was watching.
She
you.
stole my rappers. I just got in trouble, you guys.
I thought she brought you a Modelo, but
I just got in trouble. I'm done now. I can't eat candy no more.
But no, just to put a cap on it though, again, if they beat Cleveland this week, and it's going to be a tough, again, divisional game. Cleveland's coming off the not heartbreaking, but disappointing, I should say, loss at home to Pittsburgh, who I like Cleveland in that game, and they completely laid an egg. I'm not sure what Cleveland's doing. So if the Bengals win this week, Holden, to answer your question, I think kind of the Jets game is a little bit forgotten, and they'll refocus and get back on their way. They'd be 6-3, I think, or 7-3, whatever it is. So guarded optimism here in Cincinnati still, obviously.
I think Joe Mixon's been playing. Joe Mixon, though, for the Bengals, I mean, that guy's quietly been one of the better plays and so far in fantasy football in the whole season so far. I mean, Mixon, I'm jealous as a Lions fan, but then again, it does go to show how fast you can turn around an NFL franchise. So if your team does suck, it only takes a couple years. Like baseball is such a long process. NBA, I mean, if you don't have a top 2 or handful player, you don't generally stand a chance either. So that is the cool thing about the NFL. You can turn it around fairly quickly. I mean, you guys had Burrow, looks like he's panning out with Chase. So yeah, I mean, that's the only thing we got in Detroit. Just hopefully we can turn it around.
What do you guys think? We talked about the Von Miller stuff briefly, but obviously I'm not saying they're going to make wholesale changes the rest of the year and even before the deadline, but you've got the Saints who obviously are in need of a quarterback. Simeon did a good job when he came in for 2.5, almost 3 quarters of that game, and he did come in and lead the team to beat Tampa Bay. Now, I don't know if Simeon's going to be the answer the rest of the year. Is there a chance that Bridgewater could be on the market?
I heard Phil Rivers is coming.
Wants him. Yeah,
I heard Phil Rivers reached out.
Yeah, nobody wants Bridgewater at this point. Trade deadline's done. That's not happening. The Broncos are going to go try and get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, and if that doesn't work, they're going to suck again. One other guy I want to bring up, though. I don't know which one of you has the strongest opinion, but I'm so done with OBJ, with Odell Beckham. It's just like I remember earlier in the season he gets hurt during a game, and I said he's washed. Like this guy, honest to God, could have been one of the greatest wide receivers we've ever seen. And I truly believe that. You look at his rookie year, the athleticism, the height, the hands, everything about him. Jesus Christ. G-Rizen, can you fucking pay attention to this show once in a while? I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, is she just sitting there, legs spread open, shooting ping pong balls or something? What the fuck is going on?
No, I had all my candy sitting around, and she found it all. She thinks I'm fat, so she stole all my candy.
Well, I mean,
so now I don't have any more candy because she's over here while I'm on the show with you guys, and it's like a little kid getting his room done tore apart by his mom.
The Woodward Sports Network got a gem over there. Yeah, just a real fucking gem. I don't even want to talk about OBJ. Anybody else have anything else to discuss today?
But hey, OBJ, is it OBJ's fault, or is Baker Mayfield being a dick and don't want to throw it to him?
The guy was a dick in New York, and he made fun of Eli, and the guy leaves, and now he comes to Cleveland, and he's hurt all the time. He never freaking plays. He's always hurt. And then he's on the field, and now his dad's complaining that he's not getting the ball. Rashard Higgins is liking the Instagram post. You know some of that came from OBJ. Every time you think the Browns may have turned a corner here, they go back to being one of the top dysfunctional organizations in the NFL. I would not be surprised if they missed the playoffs this year. Absolutely.
I don't know how they're dysfunctional. They got a great line. They got running backs. So they don't need OBJ. I just get rid of him.
I really thought he was going to be transcendent talent. He's just been a waste.
Was he the one that gave Jefferson the handful of cash after they won the national title game?
And that too. Yeah. And that too. I didn't mind the pissing on the pylon thing, the fake pissing on the pylon. I thought that was kind of humorous. But this guy, for all the stuff he talks, it's just gone downhill. I think his career is over as far as any chance of being a superstar.
Yeah, couldn't we even just say, as far as his career, like even when it started, wasn't it all about just making a couple handful of dazzling catches, being on ESPN, thinking he's the next coming of this and that? And really, if you look just stat-wise, he hasn't been very good the last several years. So definitely way overrated. And he's done. He may linger around the NFL, but I don't think he's ever going to be real productive.
Yeah.
I think there's an organizational element to that. And you look at the Patriots run and some of the guys they brought in, right, that they were able to keep in line and get the most out of, because you knew if you screwed up, you were going to be out. There was going to be a system there where you were going to be held accountable. And if you remember when Brady wanted to bring Antonio Brown in, Bruce Arians says, no, I don't want this guy. I don't want this guy, because he understood that it just takes one person. You mentioned Higgins liking the post, right? The father's on social media. They're supposed to be focusing on a big divisional game, in a game they need to win. And now the focus is on, why aren't we throwing the ball to OBJ? And maybe it's because he drops half the passes that are thrown his way. And if you've watched him, he hasn't looked the same. He hasn't looked very good. And, we see this again. The window is short, right? I've played Robbie Anderson more this year than I think anybody. And it's really frustrating. And you have to kind of keep in mind, some of these guys, they lose a step and boom, it's done. And in the situation in Cleveland, you've got a quarterback who's hurt, who can't throw the ball, more than 20 yards downfield accurately. And you've got a receiver who is out for himself, it seems like. And when he's targeted, he hasn't made the catches. So why would you target him more? I mean, G-Rizen's got a good point. You've got a great offensive line. I think they were all intact this week, and then I think one of them got injured. But when Hunt comes back, you got even less of a reason to throw the ball to OBJ, because Hunt's a guy who's hungry. He's been through the ringer of the NFL. He's been on the outs. He's been an idiot, and he was able to come back from it, and he catches everything thrown his way. That guy's hungry. OBJ doesn't seem to give a shit about anything except OBJ.
And you got LeBron tweeting free OBJ. I thought that was funny.
LeBron. Yeah.
That's his boy. He's just trying to drum some stuff up. And please, if you keep hitting me up on Twitter, and I'm not talking to any of you, stop talking about Randy Moss and OBJ. There's no comparison whatsoever. None. Moss is one of the top 5 wide receivers of all time. OBJ had one of the top 5 catches of all time. And that's it. That's all there is to this. Randy Moss, transcendent talent. You know what? I could say OBJ transcendent talent, but he just didn't give a shit. And like people, Randy Moss was poisoned. No, he wasn't. Al Davis got in a fight with everybody. Al Davis benched Hall of Famer Marcus Allen and didn't want him to play out of spite. And it kind of happened the same thing once he went, okay, so Minnesota was an issue. Then he goes to the Raiders. And he finally gets to Belichick. I don't even know if Belichick can save Beckham right now, because the guy can't stay on the field. It's always something else with him. So that's the OBJ conversation. Anything anybody else wants to discuss before we get into the actual DFS portion of this? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
What about Derrick Henry? I thought that was I heard in the top so many teams and all these, best balls, Derrick Henry was on like 92% of them, something like that. So what a shift that's going to have in all these different fantasy landscapes at this point. But
do you play season long?
I have 2 or 3 teams, yes, but that I've been playing for a long time. But I mean, I know a lot of us, a lot of talk was about best ball, different things like that. I mean, the teams that are winning all had Henry. I mean, now those teams are going to be fighting and clawing just to keep their lead at this point. So I think that was a very, very, very big injury at this point. But you can't keep you can't give a guy a ball 500 times and expect them not to get hurt.
No.
Does anybody play Survivor? Did anybody get knocked out with the Jets-Bengals game Sunday?
I did not take the Bengals.
I avoided them. I took the Chiefs last night, and
Me too.
That wasn't looking good for quite a while there in the fourth quarter. But I actually run a Survivor pool. Here locally, we got about 400 people that started with it, and we were down to about 200. We lost another 120, so we lost about 60% of what was remaining in our pool on the Jets. So we're down to about 80 people. So, yeah.
Good. That's what you want. I mean, I went with the Chiefs too. I just don't know if the Chiefs got it anymore.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I would have probably taken the Bengals, but I had already used them, so I actually got pretty lucky there.
You got lucky there. Do you play season long?
I have one league. It's more of a family league,
yeah.
With my boys, Big T. We got a lot of the cousins and nephews get in it. And
Big T's in a season long league. I thought he was.
But it's just a fun family league.
Okay.
It's not. We each put up. I don't even know what it is this year. I think it might be $50 we put in, and we have a good time with it. And Uncle T lost the first week, and he's won 7 in a row. I'm at the top of the standings, 7-1 right now. So, yeah.
JT, do you play season long? Because I'll tell you, man, being around the DFS guys, I used to play 20 leagues a year, and I'm down to 2. I'm literally the Scott Fish Bowl, which, whatever. But I'm down to 2 money leagues anymore. It's not worth my time. And I'm good at it too, but it's just not worth my time. DFS and betting, so much better avenues, at least for me.
Yeah, it's very time consuming. I'm in 1, and I was really excited because I got Mahomes as my quarterback. So before the season, I was like, this is fantastic. I lost by 1 point this week because Mahomes ended at 15 points. And if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that week 8 with the Giants at home, Mahomes is going to have 15 fantasy points and get beat by a guy who I had on my bench until last week that I dropped, Justin Fields, I would have told you were crazy. But that's where we're at with the Chiefs and the NFL.
I just think that the sports landscape as far as fantasy football, because it all kind of started with fantasy football. People were betting, but it was always kind of an underground thing. And then fantasy football hit that big boom. And it's still going to be the most popular thing until betting overtakes it. And we're not there yet. But then it went season long to DFS. And as much as I'm playing DFS, and I'm always going to play DFS, I feel like now in the legal betting states, now it's betting. G-Rizen, you're in a legal betting state. Do you get the sense that, that's just overtaken everything to this point? Because here in Colorado, I don't think it's overtaken season-long fantasy at all, but I think it's going to blow it away sooner than later. DFS really is a niche. It is. It's a niche sport. We love it, but it's not nearly as big as season-long, and I think betting is just about to completely overrun all this.
Well, I think what happened is nobody just gets in the public fantasy football leagues, the season-long leagues. You might just do a bunch of them just to do drafts and, participate in a few of them just to get some extra cash involved. Now you're pretty much, people are just limited to playing with their friends or family like you guys have all talked about. So, yeah, I think that is what suffered the most. But because you see all like Yahoo was a big spot for season-long leagues, and all of a sudden they're throwing out DFS. So why wouldn't you I'd rather play DFS. You can control the players that are in front of you, control a little bit more. So, lose a Derrick Henry, you're not crying in your milk all week with your cereal because you lost Henry. At least you can, you can mix up and play again, next week and have a fresh team or whatever else. But, and especially like we said, if your team sucks, I'm a damn Lions fan. I don't want to, and thank God for the NFL ticket, like where I'm not stuck watching my team at 2:00 and that's the only damn game on.
You remember that? You remember
that
those
was
days?
awful. That was awful. I mean, back in the day, like there was only 2 games on. Like rarely was there 2 games on at once. There may be 3 games on in a day. You know, you'd get 2 games on 2 different networks, and then one of the networks would have a double header. But yeah, you were stuck. I was stuck watching them damn Lions every week. It sucked.
G-Rizen.
What's that?
I was going to tell you this later, not necessarily later on this show, but later. But I'm going to be actually coming up to take in a Lions game. I think it's either the Chicago. It's probably going to be more likely the Minnesota game, first part of December. So the school that I do radio for, Derek Barnes is a rookie linebacker, and he's going to get us some tickets to come up, and it's because I want to go watch him play. So there is a caveat to it. It's not because I want to watch the Lions, but I'm going to come up and, show my support of him and watch it. So I might have to look you up in the old man cave there where you got the Lions plus 14 versus the bye week behind you.
I am probably 25 minutes pretty close to the freeway to get down to the stadium. So it's not too bad, but good. There's some nice places around down there. We got a few casinos down there. We got some restaurant districts that are a lot of fun. They've really built up the city of Detroit. Probably if you haven't been here from an outsider's perspective, I would assume you'd probably more pleasantly surprised.
I've got family that live right outside Detroit, so I've been there probably 30 times in my life.
Yeah. So it's not as bad as a lot of people think, but it is fun down there. So hopefully it's not too cold for you. What is it? Chicago is the Thanksgiving game, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the following week, December 5th game against Minnesota.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just let me know when you're around.
Holden, we'll even invite you if you want to travel.
I don't want to go to that shit again.
Is it easy to get tickets to the Lions games right now?
Oh man, JT, they leave. If you go down to the stadium, around the stadium, all you got to do is look under people's windshields. People leave the tickets under the windshield and go to the bar.
You know what's funny about that, guys? When you just said that, JT, I remember way back in the day when the Reds were really bad there for a stretch. They would always say that you would walk by a car by the stadium and there would be 4 tickets in the dash, in the dash, and then you would walk back an hour later and there'd be like 8 or 12 of them sitting there. Like everybody would just dump them in there. So
that's awesome.
Hey, yeah.
One last thing. So this happened today too. We were talking about OBJ and some selfish players. Deshaun Jackson wanted to be waived by the Rams. Team we were all just talking about, they're making all these moves, Super Bowl favorites, and he doesn't want to be there. I mean, just incredible. Just incredible.
Summation of his career. All about him. Got a chance to see him a lot in D.C. Got a chance to be around. He's just very selfish. There's also some things that happen off the field that bother me a little. I'm not going to get into them right now, but there's some stuff that pissed me off about. I'm not a Deshaun Jackson fan. Yeah, imagine that. They actually want you on this team. They actually wanted him on the team. Yep. And instead, I hope the Lions pick him up. Don't the Lions have like the first opportunity? Because I hope the Lions take him and he just fucking retires or begs the Rams to take. I want Deshaun Jackson in Detroit, G-Rizen. That is punishment. That is what he deserves.
I mean, they're pretty happy. They've got a pretty good stud tandem there at wide receiver with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Khalif Raymond. And who's the other XFL player they throw out there? I mean, what are they?
And what's the chances when Deshaun Jackson goes to his next team, even if it's, someone even remotely decent, if he says in the press conference that he's there to win a Super Bowl, I'm just turning it off.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not. Hey, what's the name of your sex doll?
It was Nebraska. That was the girl's. That was Urban Meyer's the girl's name. In real life.
Her
Remember
name
we
was
went
Nebraska.
over that.
She's from Nebraska. I don't know if it's her name, but it's a great nickname.
Yeah,
It's good.
She was she's a little loosey goosey. Got that little going.
Yeah, and listen, G-Rizen, he's got a sign for those of you that are not watching. He's got a sign behind him that says winners don't wait for chances, they take them. And I have a feeling that's what he's doing. He's doing with Nebraska.
Yeah, it's true. You are going to end up banging that thing. I have 100% confidence it's going to happen. And on that note, let's let's get
We're not
into
judging here. This is a judge-free zone.
You're right. I am not judging you. You know, sometimes you got to spice it up, and seems like you've been married for a little while. But let's get into this slate. Finally, let me hit the stop here. How many minutes did we go? We went about 39 minutes. Okay, so I got to tell Simon.
Yeah,
39. No, that wasn't bad. That's about right. 39 minutes.
I think we get the same guy that goes back tomorrow and watches the show.
Yeah.
The same guy comments every week and says, if you want to hear football takes, don't listen to this show.
Which is correct. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
most of
Tuesday
it.
night. I mean,
yeah. Most of it is like that. You know what? We started with JT Hayes today. Then we went to Uncle T. G-Rizen, boy, you deserve to give your thoughts first on this show. And I want to go to quarterback today. And at quarterback, I think it's interesting because Justin Herbert's kind of taken a step back the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to ask you about Justin Herbert because I made a big bet this morning on the Chargers -2.5 and then -1.5 against the Eagles. Can't Justin Herbert just bounce back and completely shred the Eagles this week? He's sitting here at 7K on DK 7.6 on your favorite website. We got Josh Allen against Jacksonville at 8.2K. Kyler Murray's he's not 100%. I'm not going to be playing him at San Francisco. Mahomes, what a disaster. And you know what? I just want Justin Herbert thought to just confirm that I made a good bet there. Aaron Rodgers, how do we pass this guy up at 7.5? 7.5K this week at Kansas City. I know he's not at home, but he's at Kansas City. 8-1 on FanDuel. Do we just start with Aaron Rodgers, or is your hatred for Green Bay going to rear its ugly head?
No, I mean, that's a great start, really. Aaron Rodgers, Kansas City is one of the worst defenses against the pass, obviously. I think that's going to be a game that looks like there could be a potential for both teams to score points, but the Chiefs defense has been obviously getting shredded. And another guy you can maybe look at is Stafford. They're going to be playing Tennessee without now a Derrick Henry. So I believe Tennessee is going to have to probably play more of an up-tempo and probably be forced to throw the ball a little bit more. But, yeah, you mentioned Josh Allen too. Jacksonville's terrible, as we see. We keep seeing Buffalo. They don't care. They're just going to keep trying to score. They're going to run it up. I think Josh Allen is actually probably the top play of the week for quarterbacks at this point. I think, too, they're going to start looking to get right with Diggs. I think those two are buddies. They got good chemistry, so I can see them trying to get things right. But, yeah, I think those guys you mentioned are in play. Herbert, not so much. I think the Eagles are pretty good outside with Slay and those cornerbacks, D-backs they have. So, I think the other games have an opportunity to be a little bit more wide open than the Eagles game.
Uncle T, how far down are you willing to go this week as far as salary? Because to me, it kind of cuts off at Jalen Hurts at 6.7 on DK. Cousins below him, Tua, Jimmy G, Matt Ryan, Daniel Jones. I mean, stop me. Teddy Bridgewater. Boy, it's ugly down there. Maybe if Dak comes back, do you trust Dak against Denver?
Yeah, I mean, G-Rizen brought up some good points there. I agree with you, Holden. Some weeks I like to go down. Actually, last week, not that it was a low-owned pick play, but I had Carson Wentz in probably 60-70% of my builds last week, and actually panned out okay. I had him with Pittman and ran it back with A.J. Brown. The problem was I had a lot of James Robinson, and that didn't go very well for me. But no, this week I agree with what you guys said. I think A-Rod is the safest probably up here in this range. But I think a good pivot maybe later on in the week. I wouldn't even say pivot because I think, quarterbacks usually are all – the ownership's generally spread out by Sunday anyway. But I like Lamar Jackson this week at home against Minnesota, $7,300. I don't know that I've been on Lamar a lot this year, so for me to be able to play him here is probably saying a lot. Maybe I'm hopping on at the wrong time, but I really like Lamar Jackson. If you don't like A-Rod right there in that same price range, Justin Herbert is a frustrating one because he's one of my favorite players as far as especially young quarterback in the league, and he's coming off – I mean, you had the bye week in there, but in between obviously the awful outing in Baltimore, and then I thought for sure, like many – that they would bounce back nicely against New England at home, and they just laid another egg. So I'm not really quite sure what to make of Herbert, but I'm probably going to be off of him in this spot. Going down a little bit, I don't mind Joe Burrow. I don't like Hurts, Holden, to answer that question. I don't care as much for him here. The Chargers have done a decent job against opposing quarterbacks, especially through the air this year. So I probably won't go there. And really, if you're going down a little bit, I don't really see anything down here. If you wanted to go down to 5,300 and Teddy Bridgewater, as nasty as that sounds, they've got nothing. They just traded Von Miller, but Dallas has struggled just a little bit through the air. So if you wanted to go down, the only guy I could even on a Tuesday night give you anybody would be Teddy Bridgewater. They do have pieces, wide receiver pieces that, I could see him having a decent game in that one, but I'm spending up this week.
Okay. JT Hayes, quarterback, run it down, and then we'll get into the running back position.
Yeah, because I gave Uncle T a hard time about his Detroit take, I will out myself for getting the quarterbacks dead wrong last week. I thought it was two good spots to pay down. Teddy Bridgewater, who he just mentioned,
horrible
against Washington's defense, and it was some of it was play calling. A lot of it was him. A lot of it was the game environment, and then Sam Darnold against the Falcons, picking on him to bounce back against the team that's given up, now the third most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. And the thing is, Darnold, before he was almost killed on one of his runs, was actually going to get there only on his legs because he had like 66 yards rushing. So not a great week. I did have some Wentz. I think agree with G-Rizen. It's Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen who stand out above the crowd this week. And I think with Allen to Diggs is going to be – he should be the highest owned player on the slate. He is the best player on the slate. Stephon Diggs in this matchup, don't care what he's done so far in the past. I know they have a bunch of weapons, but I like those two guys. And then I wrote down three guys in terms of sort of mispricing or underpriced. Burrow was one of them, 6'8" against the Browns. I think you can look to Dak, especially with the Broncos trading away a bunch of defensive pieces here. They're going to be much weaker. They were actually decent defensively. I think they're going to be much worse the rest of the season. And then a guy who's really intriguing to me, a game that's intriguing just based on the total, the fact that it's not a divisional matchup, is Kirk Cousins at 6'2". And then Derek Carr at 5'9". The Raiders play against the Giants. Again, more bad news for the Raiders today.
I was going to say they're going to be without a wideout.
Terrible situation with Ruggs and that whole thing. But so that, obviously we'll have to see if he gets Waller back. But those guys, I'm not on Herbert. Herbert, this will be their third time playing on the East Coast in the 1:00 Eastern time slot. They opened the season up in Washington. Herbert was okay, but they played a little slower. Then, of course, they had the game in Baltimore where they got absolutely whipped. And now they come and they play the Eagles, who have been better, but could be also a nice letdown spot for the Eagles, coming off a win where you can get overconfident after playing the Lions and shutting them down like they did. So definitely tournament only there. But I think that's we don't know about Kyler Murray. I think you're right, Holden. Even if he plays, going to be off that situation. Not going to play.
I'll tell you something. You know what? Last week, I bet the under on his rushing yards. He wasn't rushing when he was healthy. He's not running now because he's that Maserati. He needs to be 100%. So I'm completely off of Kyler Murray until he has a big game. I'm not going to try and jump this one, JT.
Yeah, and I'll throw out one guy that I just looked at quickly, and then the pricing, and then the opponent. Tua hasn't been bad. He's had his best games against really bad defenses, but he kept the Dolphins in that game a bit last week, longer than you would have expected. He really didn't get wild with the turnovers, and he gets the Texans. So
I got made fun of on this show a few weeks ago for recommending Tua.
Throwing
that out there. It wasn't JT. JT didn't do it, but I think.
Look, I
think the other two out of our four. I won't mention the other two names, but they poo-pooed my Tua take, and he put up almost 30 DK points. But go ahead, JT. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, he's not a guy I like to play either, but, you have to look at the situation. And this Houston team, unable to trade Deshaun Watson, clearly going nowhere, right? I mean, it was sort of ridiculous that they actually scored points in that game on Sunday against the Rams in the fourth quarter. But I think he's in play at that price. And I think after Diggs, there's a couple of guys. We'll have to see what happens with DeAndre Hopkins. But up there in my top 5 I have rated in terms of wide receivers is Devontae Parker, who's just 5'3" in this matchup against the Texans.
Love him, but please don't play Kirk Cousins. You're going to lose money if you play Kirk Cousins.
Come on, scratch him off.
It says 210 yards and a touchdown and interception all over it. I mean, we saw it. What?
Could be. I mean, I don't know. You're expecting this defense is the defense that played against the Chargers, and I don't think they're quite that good. And we'll see. We'll see. I like the total. I think he could be worth a shot. Again, I'd probably listed 4 or 5 guys above him. I'm just saying that 6'2" price point, the 2 wide receivers against the secondary that has been beaten at times this year. I think I can get there on some of my teams.
Okay. Hey, Uncle T, let's go to running back. We'll start with you this time. So it's interesting because Kamara kind of stands out at the top all by himself. He is the highest priced, running back at 8.2 and then 9.4 on FanDuel. Eckler at 7.9. But can you talk to me about Dalvin Cook right now? Where's Dalvin Cook? Minnesota at Baltimore. Dalvin Cook obviously is going to get the work. He had 20 touches last week. He had 31 the week before that. We know he was injured for a while, but where are you on Dalvin Cook this week? Because he just hasn't really paid off more than he did 2 weeks ago and in week 1. Besides for that, it's been a whole lot of nada.
Yeah, let me address Kamara and Eckler first. Okay. Those are the 2 guys. I know they're at the top of the board. And I haven't paid up very often unless it's been with Henry in builds the last couple of weeks. I've been paying down for the most part. I actually had Henry in only one of my 6 builds this week or last week. So I kind of more or less for the most part faded him as well. That being said, I think Kamara and Eckler are both in excellent situations here this week in their matchups. So the quick answer on the Cook thing is I won't be playing him this week because of my love for the 2 that I just mentioned. As far as Dalvin Cook, I'm not really sure. And I'll tell you what, I don't know where this Minnesota team's going, to be honest with you. I don't think Zimmer is the answer. I don't think Cousins is the answer. They've got 2 good wideouts, obviously a stud younger wideout in Justin Jefferson. And I don't want to get too off on a tangent on the Vikings here, but I just don't know where they're going. They'll come up with a game here in a couple weeks against a team they have no business beating. It could be this week. They're maybe an 8 or what are they? 5.5, 6 point underdog on the road. I mean, again, I wouldn't be shocked if they won and went into Baltimore and won, but I just don't see it. From what I saw at home against Dallas, against their backup quarterback on Monday Night Football last night or Sunday night, whenever that game was, I just don't know where they're going. So the quick answer on Dalvin Cook is I just don't know, Holden. I'm not going to play him, even though he's getting the touches. I just don't trust what's going on up there in Minnesota right now. So I'll lean the other 2. But as you go down the board here a little bit, I actually like Nick Chubb a little bit. His first came back last week. He wasn't very good, wasn't very effective, but the whole offense wasn't very effective. We already talked about that in that game against Pittsburgh last week. But he is $6,700, which is a fair price tag against Cincinnati this week here, at Cincinnati. So I don't mind that one if you're paying up. And then when you go down the board a little bit, I just don't see a ton. Chase Edmonds down there at 5,300. I have a little bit of interest in. He feels like he's a little bit underpriced, but again, Connor's getting just as much volume. It feels like, especially through the, on second and third downs, and out of the backfield, and then they get the ball inside the 5 and they're giving it to Connor. So, that being said, I don't know that I'll go back to Big T's guy, Boston Scott, in this scenario here against the Chargers, although it is a decent matchup, $5,200 there. But I don't like a whole lot from the middle down below here, holding in the mid-tier down, again, on this Tuesday night. Hopefully these guys will come up with a couple more suggestions.
Yeah, I'll go back to Elijah Mitchell again. That was my call last week. That's going to be my call this week. He's getting, 70-something% of the touches there. They absolutely love him. He's got big playability.
Price went up a little bit, but yeah.
5.8 on DraftKings. Yeah. I mean, that's a free square for me at that price. He's got a chance to hit 20 any week. He's 7-1 on FanDuel. So I think that's another guy we need to look at. Hey, G-Rizen, Ezekiel Elliott. I know it's a couple of down games, but the Denver running game, they have 6 linebackers on IR. And they just traded away Von Miller. So I want to get your take on Zeke, and then where else would you go at the running back position?
Yeah, I don't mind Zeke. I think that Denver defense is going to be a little bit deflated after their kingpin just got traded away. But I don't mind Elliott because, too, I mean, you just saw Dak obviously missed his game. So, I mean, they have a very high team total. I believe it's one or second or highest or third highest team total on the board for the week. So I'm going to expect Dak not to be running around himself. I'm going to assume that they're going to have to rely on Zeke and Pollard a little bit here to kind of keep Dak standing upright. I don't think they're going to want him to take any kind of hits unnecessary. So we'll see about that. But I think Jonathan Taylor's in a really good spot. He's got the Jets who are terrible, as we know, this week. And then you got, is AP going to be in play? Who's going to be filling in?
No, he's going to be ready this week.
Okay, so then maybe McNichols is going to be a guy.
Even if he is ready, G-Rizen, that's like me going out there and taking handoffs in the backfield. I don't think you want to do there.
Hey, he's 4,500. If he falls in the end zone twice,
he's going to fall. It ain't going to be in the end zone. He'll probably fall in the backfield.
Yeah, I see that. I see that message there.
Don't waste the roster spot on him.
I'm just looking at all the different games. But anyway, I think really when you're looking at some of these guys here, I don't know what you guys think about. You guys talk about Myles Gaskin a little bit. He's been getting a little bit more run. Houston's terrible. I like attacking these crappy teams. So I think he's interesting. I think Chubb is too, really interesting. Obviously, we're not going to have Kareem Hunt taking any of his carries. That's not going to last very long. So how much is Dearness Johnson going to be involved? Who knows? But we'll see. But I don't think I see myself paying up for Eckler. But I don't mind the Zeke call. I'm just not a fan of playing Zeke.
JT. Oh, by the way, Adrian Peterson is now saying he's going to a Predators game. So good job, Adrian Peterson. I'm so happy for you. Such a stud. Colts on Thursday, Titans on Sunday night, not main slate. Thank you, JT Hayes. Did we talk about anybody from that game? I brought up. Way to go. Appreciate that, G-Rizen, but no big deal, buddy. No big deal.
That was one of those things where I was sending a message and not mentioning it on the air so that G-Rizen would because he's probably just kind of looking at all the players.
I would have never done that either, G-Rizen. JT and I would have never done that to you out on the air.
It's called courtesy.
Well, I didn't know who did it. So I'm fine with you guys and doing that.
The thing is though that information is a little bit more relevant than when we were talking about baseball. That'll be over today because at least
very good. And I'm not going to have Simon take it out. To be honest with you, I'll let him say why the fuck did you bring that up. JT Hayes, did you talk about running back yet? I don't even remember with you either. It's just please do running back and please make it fast so we can get to wide receiver.
Yeah, no problem, Holden. Anything for you?
Thanks, buddy.
Elijah Mitchell came out of that game questionable, according to Kyle Shanahan, the wizard. Mm-hmm. Kyle Shanahan. I hate Kyle Shanahan. So if he doesn't practice this week, I think you're taking a significant chance. Arizona, not a team that gives up a lot on the ground. They did lose. J.J. Watt, but they got Chandler back. So I think there's a couple of guys. We got to see what happens if Josh Jacobs is back or not. Vegas going up against the Giants. Devontae Booker in that same game. They've been giving Devontae Booker a lot of carries. Vegas has been bad on the ground. I like Kamara a little bit. I got to see what they're going to do at quarterback because if Taysom Hill is back, that could impact how many touches Kamara sees because, Taysom will run it himself. You guys talked about Nick Chubb. I like Nick Chubb there. I'm going to try and stay away from the Philly situation, the Arizona situation. I said this on Sunday mornings off the Chalk Show. It seems like Nick Sirianni just picked up Doug Peterson's playbook and is like, okay, I'll just use like 7 different running backs, sort of like the Ravens do. It's very annoying. He's been doing this all season. And then G-Rizen brought up Myles Gaskin, and I've noticed too that he's been getting more touches. He's been getting some targets out of the backfield, and this is a really good spot against the Texans. So I do think that I'm slightly interested in him as well. And then his price is up, but Aaron Jones, team total for Green Bay of 27.25. I like Green Bay's offense a lot more if, obviously Devontae Adams is coming back from COVID, if he comes back from the COVID IR, if they have some of these receivers in, because then it opens up their options and makes Kansas City forces Kansas City to look at more than just focusing in on the run game and short passing.
I want to go back to you here, JT Hayes, as we start the wide receiver position. What's going on with Mike Williams, man? This guy at the beginning of the year was just tearing. I can't believe I'm going back to the Chargers again, but he had 22, 33, and 36.5 DK points in 4 of the first 5 weeks. Then he gets hurt, and he's done absolutely nothing. Is he just cooked at this point? Are we just throwing him off the ledge? We don't want to mess with him? Like, Mike Williams doesn't even seem like an option right now.
Oh, I think he is. I don't think he's cooked at all. I think you have a couple of tough matchups. One, the game against Baltimore where they couldn't get anything going. So no one in the offense did well in that game. Then you have a matchup against the Patriots. Belichick always takes away the number one option, who he feels is the number one option on the team. That guy clearly so far early in the season was Mike Williams. And I think some of it too is Keenan Allen has clearly lost a step, right? Keenan Allen does not have that explosiveness anymore. I like Williams here. He's got a good price. Chargers, again, I have concerns about the Chargers going on the East Coast and playing in that 1:00 time slot. They have not looked good so far this year. It hadn't been a factor for them in the last couple of years. They went into Miami last year and played really well. So I like him a lot, but I said before, Stephon Diggs at the top of the list, 7-7. Amari Cooper in that home matchup against Denver is just 5.7. He's just 5.7. That's just insane. You've got CeeDee Lamb up at 7 something. I think he's a good play as well, but Amari underpriced, Devontae Parker at 5.3. And then he's got one of the best matchups. He will have one of the best matchups on the board. We'll have to see what happens in terms of practice and how his hamstring rebounds this week. But, DeAndre Hopkins is now just 7K or 7.7 on DraftKings. So we talked about this a little bit, talked about this on Sunday as well. It is tough to target some of these Arizona pieces simply because they have so many and they do such a good job at spreading the ball around. So he's definitely lower, but I've got Mike Williams just behind Amari, Diggs, Parker, and then right after him in that same game in Miami, you have to like the volume that Brandon Cooks continues to get, just 6.1 in a matchup that I think is neutral for him.
Emmanuel Sanders, another guy I'll throw out there. T. Higgins just getting that volume. Absolutely love that. Don't mind going back to Russell Gage if you think that he's going to get involved in that offense. Last week they just decided not to go to him. On the other side, Jamal Agnew, I know a lot of people have been on him. Actually, not a lot of people have been on him, but he's starting to be he might be more of a cash play. I don't know what the ceiling is there. Against Buffalo, he did go have 12 targets, 6 catches, and a touchdown last week. Just some other guys I'm throwing out there at you, Uncle T. Give me a couple wide receivers we should keep an eye on this week.
Yeah, JT brought up quite a few that were on my list here, so I'll double up on a couple of them for sure. Stephon Diggs, if you're paying up, I really like that spot for sure. In that same game, Holden, you mentioned Manny Sanders, and boy, I tried to make him work last week as a value piece, and that did not work out good. 4 targets, no catches. So you could say possibly a flop lag situation there, and maybe saving some salary, and maybe coming in, no one's going to probably play him after that performance. So I don't mind that. But if you're going down a little bit, I agree with the JT with Mike Williams and DeAndre Hopkins. D-Hop is, again, Murray's a little banged up, so you got to tread cautiously there. And as well, like you mentioned, they spread it around quite a bit. But at the same time, this is a guy that we've seen in the mid to upper 8Ks at times last year and, earlier on this year. To get him at an even 7K flat on DK, it does feel like it's a pretty nice value there for D-Hop. He could easily get you 7, 8, 9 catches for 110 and a score. And boy, for 7K, that'll really pay off that price tag. Going down a little bit further, DJ Moore, I don't mind. He's had a couple rough games. He's still fairly priced at 6,400. I agree with the Cooks call. I think in Discord last week on Sunday, there were some people I think that were, or at least mentioning Cooks in that game last week. And I'm kind of on board with JT here, and I've mentioned him a few times on the Wishbone. It just takes one play for him, right, to house it. Like, that game last week, you could have easily made a case for Cooks to not even be in the game, right, mm-hmm. at the point of the game where that was way out of hand. And then he catches one bomb, and boom, he's there. So, again, you could say he's maybe a little overpriced, considering he could, totally flop. But 6,100, they're probably going to be behind again, even though it's Miami. They're going to be behind, so I don't mind that call. But if you're going down a little bit further, I love the T. Higgins call. $5,300. He's getting a lot of volume while Chase is getting a lot of the publicity. T. Higgins is definitely getting his share of targets. 6 last week, 15 the week before.
T, just a quick timeout. Jamar Chase is now getting double teamed.
Yeah,
this guy is talented.
Well, and his price keeps going up, which again, it's all about
Well, I'm just saying Higgins. Yeah, Higgins is going to get more work. They're doubling Jamar Chase at this time. Fine, Higgins going to beat you. He's ultra talented. Made an amazing one-handed catch last week for a touchdown. Yeah. So I'm on you with that one.
Yeah, Higgins like quite a bit down in that low 5K range. He's actually one of my favorite value guys, at least earlier in the week here. Guys that I won't be going back to, and I know Big T's got his dry erase board behind him in his office. I've got something up. I am not playing Jacoby Myers anymore. I'm not playing Robbie Anderson anymore. So I got a couple of these guys on my list. Russell Gage is a guy I wanted to talk to JT about, because I know after the news came out about Ridley, people were maybe gravitating towards Pitts and or Gage last week. And I know it was just a one-game scenario there. But boy, he kind of let everybody down, and he's still, what's Gage at? 4,900. I don't know if he could be an option. I'll defer to JT on a thought there with him being a Falcons guy.
He could be. I don't like the spot for the Falcons going into the Superdome. It generally hasn't been a place where they played particularly well. And now with the Saints defense getting a bit healthier, it seems honestly like a bad spot for the Falcons. Seems like a bad spot, particularly without Ridley, where you have to, the way I look at it, I think that you're going to get Lattimore on Pitts for the most part, right? And then I think you're going to see a pretty heavy pass rush. If you look at what Carolina did to Matt Ryan last week, and Carolina hadn't been good at all on defense the last several weeks, they were able to get to him. They were able to force him into bad decisions repeatedly. And, the dump-offs to Mike Davis went nowhere. So 4.9, fine, but I'd rather get up to Parker. One of the things that I will say, because I did this with success last year, it hasn't worked this year, the wide receivers have not been volatile. The wide receivers, it's been pretty much the same guys that you need to have every week, every other week, right? You need to have the Cincinnati guys. You need to have Cooper Kupp every single week. You've got to have, A.J. Brown most of these weeks, or, Julio that one week. The Seattle guys got there this week, even though nobody played them, both Lockett and Metcalf. And then I think these Miami guys are going to be something moving forward too, where you're going to see there's a very clear delineation of good teams and bad teams. And I think the Falcons, unfortunately, are going to, for the rest of the season, be in the latter half of that. So that's why I want to focus on the Cowboys receivers. I want to focus on the Buffalo Bills receivers, right? You can look for bringbacks here and there.
Adam Thielen too.
What's that?
Adam Thielen too. JT Hayes, I have to go do the NBA show, so we're going to wrap this up real quick. G-Rizen, can you give a quick, if it's possible, breakdown of wide receiver, and then we'll each give our favorite tight end play of the week. What do you got at wide receiver, buddy?
I mean, from what you guys said, I was pretty much on board with a lot of what you guys said. Diggs to me is a top play just because, as we said, I think Allen's going to try to make it right with him and trying to get him on track. I don't mind Thielen. He's a guy you guys mentioned or haven't mentioned. He's just such a red zone target for Cousins. I don't mind that at all. Brandon Cooks, like you guys said, I really like Brandon Cooks. And a guy maybe nobody's mentioned yet, maybe like a Courtland Sutton, I don't mind as well over there. It's kind of a low price guy, but for me, yeah, it's going to be Stephon Diggs is up at the top for me.
Love it. Who's your tight end play this week? Last week, I was touting Dan Arnold. It worked. This week, I'm telling you, Albert O is going to have you, especially if you're playing cash, but tournaments, Albert O has some upside. He's back for the Broncos. Noah Fant's on IR or on the COVID list. He might get a 2-6 on DraftKings. He might be pretty popular, but I'm telling you right now, he will probably be in a couple of my lineups. Who's your play this week at tight end, G-Rizen? Pick one.
If Ridley's going to be out, I'm going to stick with Kyle Pitts here for a little bit. I think that's too many targets that are going around. I do like Pitts, and another guy that I've been kind of keeping my eye on here recently. I've been keeping my eye on Noah Fant, and you never know, too, with Hunter Henry. I don't mind either down there in New England.
I like it. Uncle T?
Yeah, I thought you mentioned, is Fant on the COVID list?
Yeah, he's on the COVID list. That's why I like Alberto.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, for me, I'm going under 5K this week. I got two guys, Mike Gesicki, 4,900. JT talked about liking possibly Tua as an option in his player pool. I like Mike Gesicki in this matchup against Houston. And then a couple $100 cheaper, 4,500. Dallas Goedert in that matchup against the Chargers at home at 4,500, I think, is a very fair price.
Two tremendous plays. I like it. What do you got here, Mr. JT Hayes at tight end?
Hey, G-Rizen told me not to play Kirk Cousins. G-Rizen, don't play Kyle Pitts this week.
No, I told you not to play Kirk Cousins.
I thought it was G-Rizen.
No.
I thought it was G-Rizen. I don't think this is a Kyle Pitts week. But Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews for Baltimore. Good matchup there. He's equally getting the same amount of targets as Hollywood Brown. And I like the matchup. Uncle T talked about Lamar. So
last guy to mention. What's the deal with Washington? We don't have them on the slate, so we do have Logan Thomas coming back. So that's something to keep an eye on. All right, guys, wonderful work. Nice long podcast today. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, G-Rizen. Keep me posted on the three-way. Uncle T, as always, wonderful to see you. JT Hayes, again, we know that you're living and dying with the Braves right now, even though you're from New York, but it is nice to see you hop on some type of bandwagon. Wonderful to see you too. And have a great time on the Mayo Media Network, because you talk about that more than Uncle T talks about his birthday. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later
this week. Thank you for pumping it. I didn't even
no problem. No problem. It's sweeping the nation. For JT, Uncle T, G-Rizen, I'm Holden. Simon, get us out of here, please.